Good morning, everyone. And it's so wonderful to be part of the team. In fact, can I recommend a book? This is really good. This is one of the best ones. And if you look at it, the most complete blueprint to building a massive network marketing business. What? How about that? But here's a wonderful thought. This is an idea. What if you were part of a club or a community of people that got together to get healthy and wealthy with personal development, goal setting, and holding each other accountable to creating results, playing big, making a difference in people's lives, and making the most of this life that we have been given? Isn't that what we're here about? And just want to thank everybody for joining, and I'm just grateful to have you on the team. It's given me something to do, and just to reflecting a little bit about the greatest gifts that we have is time and the freedom to direct our lives in that time. Also, just one of the things I think is really interesting is what can you do with time? And one of my favorite stories, this was something I heard many years ago, and it's affected my thinking a lot. And if you haven't heard it, it's pretty powerful. It's about this guy who he was an adult and he was visiting with one of his friends, and the conversation came up about music. And he said to his friend, he says, I've always wanted to play the cello. I love the cello. And his friend says, well, why don't you take lessons? And he says, well, I'm almost 40 years old. To really be accomplished at all with the cello, it'd take about 5 years. And in 5 years, I'll be about 45. And his friend said, if you don't learn to play the cello in 5 years, how old will you be? And think about that. One way or another, 5 years from now, we're going to be 5 years older, and where will we be? And he thought about that, and 5 years went by, and he became a pretty accomplished cellist. That's a wonderful idea right there. And I'd like you to just think about, okay, imagine right now, 5 years from now, and your life is practically perfect in every way. Think about 5 years from now, you have an ideal life. What would your health be like? Where would you be working? Where would you be living? Who would you be living with? Maybe who would you no longer be living with? Or all sorts of things. What would that be? But if you really wrote that down and thought about it, rather than just drifting along 5 years from now, you'd probably be 1,000 times more likely to be where you want to be if you actually decided where you wanted to be in 5 years and directed your life day by day to do that. Like playing the cello, what you would do is you'd practice every day. Also, what you would do is you would have a teacher. That's one of the greatest steps. Learning to play it by yourself, it might take a long time rather than having somebody guide you. And that brings up another, I highly recommend this book too. I've got a lot of books, but some of these are just the very best. But in this, think about this: define your dream, get a vehicle, make a plan of action, take massive action. I would add that is decide what you want to do, find somebody that already knows how to do it, and then just go to work. But also, anything worthwhile requires some sacrifice, paying a price. But if you really think about it, sacrifice so often is giving up something of lesser value and gaining something of greater value. So if you have a worthy goal, and if you think about success, there's so many ways to define it, but success is the progressive realization of a worthy ideal. Wow, the progressive realization. So along the way, practicing the cello day after day, you get better. And one of the most wonderful feelings is just the feeling of accomplishment, doing something worthy that you're excited about, and you're getting better. And that's tremendous satisfaction, which brings to mind, this is a folder you don't want to get. I got this from my doctor. Let's see, exam date, June 2018. So that's a couple of years more than 5 years ago. But back then, 2018, things were a lot different. One of the things is I was stuck. So much of what we do, like if you meet somebody new, other than their name, one of the first things you say is, what do you do? That's how we identify ourselves. So much of our work, half of our waking lives is essentially probably work. And you want to do something that you feel good about, not that you don't like. And you definitely don't want to feel stuck like I was at that time, frustrated. And then to get the news that I had a problem. Now, one of the interesting things with my problem is it turned into my career, my new career. And so I've been taking this since 2018, every single day. In fact, I had some just before I turned that on, but I can't get too much. So this is such an amazing moment right now. But think about what you want to do and find something that can get you excited, because 5 years from now, it'll surely come. And where will you be? And one of the things I love is having something that's really powerful. And I've got some slides I'd like to share with you. Whoops, pushed the wrong button here. Where is share? There we go. If you think about where any of us would like to be, probably as an example, when you look at New Year's resolutions, as we begin again a new year, which is just around the corner, that'll happen before we know it. And where do you want to be by then? Get started on right now, but probably all of us would like to be more healthy and more wealthy. That's just a common phrase, healthy, wealthy, and wise. Why not? Now, here's the thing though, is it going to just happen by chance or by choice? This is really a big thing right here, to choose. What we do day after day compounds, and it takes us a direction as we keep doing the same things. And what do most people do as far as their health and their wealth? Do they have a plan for health? Do they have a plan for wealth? And this is something that you want to look up. So if you type in on search, if you actually go to YouTube and then type in last 10 years of your life, Canada Health. It's a 1 minute commercial that, or a documentary or whatever you want to call it. It's 1 minute long, but it talks about essentially that the last 10 years of most people, it's not too fun. And if you just put your hand over the screen on one side and then the other, where you can just see one side or the other, well, it's obvious. Which one would you rather be? This is a guy that's enjoying or enduring the last 10 years of your life. And so when you think about life expectancy, how long are you going to live? But think about health span rather than just lifespan. Being alive, if you got a tube in your nose and you got oatmeal spilled all over you and you're pretty much stuck, versus getting out there and having fun and doing things. I actually have a health span. That's a big deal. And so health by choice, not by just drifting along, because if you just follow the statistics, where are you going to be? And so what we want to talk about is a healthy and wealthy plan. And one of my favorite books along this idea, I picked this up many years ago, and wow, what a title. Who wouldn't want to do that? And biologically, you can, as the title says there, turn back your biological clock. Literally, biologically, if you start doing the right stuff, next year, biologically, you could be younger. And we've heard ideas that are fun, that 60 is the new 40 and so forth. But to think about that, a guide to living like 50 until you're 80 and beyond. And it's all, the studies are in there. There's a lot of things that you could do. One of the big things that this book emphasizes is be active. Do something every day. Exercise, you've got to do it every day. Move. Movement is life. And if you quit moving, basically, let me put it in a positive way. If you are moving, it sends powerful biological signals to every cell in your body that you're still alive, that you're not checking out. And I want to share this is Jillian Michael. She says this so well. She says, aging gracefully doesn't have to mean giving up and accepting decay. Self-care means keeping yourself in fantastic health for a long time. After all, would you want to live in a dilapidated home? Should you neglect your car until it breaks down? This is your body we're talking about, your one and only true home. You know, that physical shell that quite literally houses you for an entire life. And it's the only one you're ever going to get. So you should care for it and care about it. We should. And here's a good manual. Younger next year. We can do that. And we're involved in a club where we're talking about being younger next year. We got things to do that. Now, here's some of the obvious things. This is what we're told to be healthy. And this is real straight up stuff. We just talked about exercise. Younger next year, do something every day after day. It's just critical. Supplements. 100 years ago, probably didn't need that so much, but with just the way we do agriculture today, the food is just less potent than it used to be, the nutrient content. We're getting more yields per acre as far as bushels or whatever of different things, but the nutrient content is greatly reduced. And so probably makes a good idea just to ensure yourself with supplements, but not to use that in lieu of a good diet. Because most Americans, if you're just coasting along like everybody else, why do we get sick? Up to 70% of the caloric intake is highly processed food, which is fake. And so as much as you can, eat fresh whole foods, make stuff yourself. The other things, obvious, plenty of fresh, clean water, breathing clean air. Sleep is one of the greatest indicators for longevity, getting a good night's rest. If we're doing all of these things, why are people getting sick and dying? And what's really scary is more and more that's happening. Well, here's another component, and this is something I love about what we're doing together as a team, is there's a lot of research that consistently finds that if you have a strong sense of purpose, it's associated with a lower risk of premature death and improved physical and mental health. Probably one of the most powerful examples of that is Man's Search for Meaning. So here's a guy in a death camp, and one of the big things is they call it a death camp because a lot of people died there. That almost seemed like that was the intent, is just burn people up until, just use everything out of them and then just let them die. Why did some people live and why did some others not? Well, a lot of people, they gave up. They didn't have a purpose that kept them going, pushing them through. And I love this idea, MTP, massively transformative purpose. Massive, audaciously big and aspirational. Transformative can cause significant transformation to an industry community or change the whole planet. We people, we need a purpose. We're purpose driven. Have a clear why about your work. If you say, what do you do? And you say, oh, I work at Joe's machine shop. Oh, how long have you been doing that? Way too long. So many people don't have any satisfaction in their work. And I was thinking that myself not too many years ago, about 7 years ago. Again, I shared with you I was stuck and I just didn't feel like I was adding value. In fact, maybe actually a false flag on the mountain. So this is something I think is so critical to have a massively transformative purpose. You'll live longer, live better, more exciting. Rich people, they live longer and they live better. So why not be that? Now, here's a thing I think is really powerful right here. And I think everyone will agree that if all of your cells were healthy, you would be healthy. And here's just some illustrations of the different cells we have: nerve cells, muscles, blood cells, and so forth. All of these cells comprise, they figure the human being has around 40 trillion individual cells in their body. And if you think about that, all these myriad of diseases, they're simply names of a description of symptoms that you have if some of the cells in a particular part of your body are malfunctioning. Because if all of those cells were functioning properly, there would be no symptoms, there would be no disease. So say it again, if all of your cells are healthy, you cannot be sick. And so the thing is, choosing health means learning to give your cells everything they need. Equally critical, keeping them free of toxins. Don't give them things they don't need. And here's the other issue. This is a big one. This is one of the most scary problems right now, is we're being inundated with something that didn't exist 100 years ago. Now, we've always had some sorts of pollution. 100 years ago, we were worried about horse manure in the streets of New York. Not too much of that now, but that was a big problem. Now, look at us today, though, and these are much, much more toxic. We got some really bad things to the point where they found hundreds of toxins in umbilical cord blood. So you're born into this world and you've already been introduced to a myriad of toxins because you are what you eat. And if you're a baby, before you're born, you're eating what your mom eats. And if they're eating toxins, you're getting that too. And so what is a toxin? It's a chemical substance that damages an organism, that messes up your body. And are you toxic? Well, do you live on planet Earth? If you live on Earth, it's inescapable. You're toxic. Well, what can you do about that? And here's the thing, we'll probably never get rid of all of these toxins. It's just part of modern life. Now, here's the other thing, though. What can we take? As an example, the reason heavy metals are so bad is they compete with the biological minerals. And so, as an example, magnesium is used in all sorts of different biological reactions. It's an absolutely essential mega mineral. Life would be impossible without it. Well, what if you had mercury come along? How much mercury do you need? Zero. It's entirely useless. But it's worse than useless. It actually competes with magnesium. And so it has a higher mass and charge, and it wins every time. And so it bumps magnesium out of the way and shuts down all of the things that are dependent upon the mineral magnesium. Well, what can you do? Take more magnesium? It just won't work. Is there a solution? And here's the thing I think is really powerful right here is we got problems. Is there any problem bigger than toxins? Here's something. If you just look, not just toxins, but the whole healthcare system. 100 years ago, we were the healthiest nation in the world. Today, we're the worst. 100 years ago, we were first. Now we're worst. Why? Well, toxins are just a part of it, but we're discovering more and more that the entire medical system could be one of the major problems. And that's a scary thought right there. The medical industrial complex. And this is something a lot of people have been aware, but now it's hitting national consciousness with the Make America Healthy Again. And people are realizing there's some problems. But here's a thought right here. Any problem is an opportunity. If you can solve a problem, and so many businesses, they exist because they solve a problem. And here's a thought. The bigger the problem, the bigger the opportunity. If you could fix something like, what could you do with toxins? Now, here's the thing. I've been into water for a long time. Pure, clean water that tastes good is just invaluable. But ultimately, it's something you've got to do yourself. You can't leave it up to the community or the water purifiers. You go down to a purification plant and you see all the stuff that they're putting into it. Scary stuff. So that's, in a sense, it's just your personal responsibility. Well, what if you could do that yourself? And that's what we've got. Something so elegant and simple. You just put these drops in your mouth. This is something that is absolutely amazing. Is nobody knows about this. Everybody needs it. And it's clinically proven to remove heavy metals, toxins, and all sorts of wonderful things that happen when you do that. Now, the interesting thing is you use this very easy. You just I give it a tiny shake, unscrew the lid, and squirt a few drops in your mouth. And moments later, it enters the bloodstream, and anywhere your blood is going, it's carrying these tiny crystals of activated micronized clinoptilolite, which is a natural mineral in the Earth's crust that has this unique affinity to heavy metals, but it's not interested in the good metals. So it selectively gets bad stuff, heavy metals and other toxins, and engulfs it in these little tiny crystal cages, and then it's eliminated through the kidneys. And there's a lot of clinical studies that actually show that when you take this, the urinary excretion of heavy metals goes up 5-fold and more. In fact, if you're just on Earth, you're being exposed every time you breathe, drink water, touch things, eat food. It's everywhere. But there's some areas, as an example, what if your job exposes you to additional toxins? And so coal miners, that's one of the first things that came to mind when they first started studying this, is they got some coal miners. They're down in the earth with coal and lots of heavy metals, and it's all over them. They're breathing it. It's all on them and everything. And they found that when they took this product, their urinary excretion of heavy metals and toxins increased 15-fold. So this is a big deal because the biochemist who created this said that a healthy, clean body fixes itself. Again, the healthy cell concept. If you give your body everything it needs, equally critical, don't give it what it doesn't need, you're going to have healthy cells and you'll have a healthy body. And so what we have is a team of people that have put together a company that's only just a little over 3 years old. And this is amazing. We've got people you can trust. On the left is Rick Deitch, the biochemist, who has done billions of dollars in product creation over almost 30 years. And I believe of all the things he's made, probably the most important and most valuable, certainly the favorite product of mine, is Cell Defender. Just amazing. The middle guy, Neil Roth, he's the CEO. He's done billions of dollars in managing companies. He actually directed large drugstores for many years, later got into network marketing. With his drugstore background and getting burned out being a CEO of drugstores and working 60, 70 hours a week, he found out Rexall, somebody brilliantly took that name, a trusted drugstore name, and turned it into a business manufacturing multivitamins and also taking it to direct sales through a network marketing. He got excited about that, became very successful, and met Rick Deitch, who was the director of that company for many years. And on the right, we have Mickey Dillon. Mickey, his background is medical equipment and pharmaceutical sales. And with his background, he was attracted to Rexall, became a sales leader. All of these guys have known each other almost 30 years. They've worked together. They like each other. They're very complementary in their skills. So Rick, premier formulator, Neil Roth, CEO, directing billion-dollar companies, and we've got Mickey, who's run big businesses on the sales front. And putting all that together, we've got something amazing, a company nobody's heard of. And yet these products that Rick, in fact, all of these guys, they'd probably rather just do like what we're doing, go out and have the fun part, inventing products and having other people be the managers and run the business. Rick has said, and Neil both said, it's easier to be a vendor than a company owner. And so that's what they tried to do, but that kept dropping the ball. So as an example, Cell Defender that we've been talking about, in one form or another, has actually been on the market for over 20 years. It's gone around the globe. Millions of bottles have been sold over that period. I was introduced to it 7 years ago, and miracles happened to me. But they kept dropping the ball. And so here we have a company, essentially, if you want it done right, you have to do it yourself. It's always the owners that ruin the company. So they said, okay, we're going to do it. And so here we are. It's just so exciting. And so essentially the goal is make these products reliably available. And Rick, I believe he talks about, I'm never going to have just a vitamin C or a multivitamin. I believe if he did do that, they would still be unique and better than anything else. He's just got the gift. But essentially what we have is a specialty company. We create unique products that everybody needs and nobody has it. But what's really fun is you order them and they come. And if you're a distributor, if you work hard, you can get paid really well and on time. And we've just got a really wonderful culture here. Of all the things I've done, which is essentially health products through the network marketing arena for getting close to 50 years, this is my favorite product. This is my favorite company, my favorite comp plan. And we're just going into a growth environment. And this is a fun time to be alive and be part of something that's going to be so huge. And so here's the idea. We've got all this stuff battle tested. Everybody's gone through a few rodeos before, including myself. But here we have a fresh start. A lot of these products have already been proven in the marketplace, as I mentioned. But think about this. I love this idea right here. We have an obsessive enthusiasm for one thing, changing people for the better. And this is evident in everything we do, everything we are, everything we strive to become. We hold a deep sense of responsibility to create a sustainable company that empowers people for success, one that people can trust, to be ethical and transparent, to be true to who we are. Every company decision is based on what we say is what we do, doing the right thing, putting people first, positively impacting all the people we connect with, and just building a community where we together can change the world. My experience in all the years, I think you could put it in two things. You want a company to be competent and you want them to be trustworthy. And so often I've been in companies that were one or the other. and made it okay if you had at least one. If you lose both of them, that's really no fun at all. But boy, what if you could have both to a high degree? Oh my goodness. And here's the thing, we've got all these other products, and Rick has a huge vault of products that's already worked in the market. And then he's just a prodigious researcher. He goes to all the new product shows, new things that are coming out. And when new developments happen, it might come to the point where this is too good not to share. And so he'll incorporate that maybe in an existing formula that was already doing really well in another company that he made. And then he tuned it up. And then here's another idea I love about this product you can trust. Here we are just reading this results-based proprietary natural products, scientifically researched, always full strength and effective. And so imagine, and this is what it was like working at Rexall as an example. Okay, here's this wonderful product, and they say, well, we don't like the price point. What can you take out? This is what we want to pay for this. And you've got to compromise it. What if you actually had your own company, and instead of the myriad of different moving parts like a typical company, the companies I've been with in the past, typically you've got some people that started the company, and of course you need a product or service to make a company. And so if it's a health product, you're going to be thinking, well, I want to have something unique with a story that where it came from, and something romantic or exciting, exotic. It came from the Amazon, some new phytonutrient or whatever. Well, somebody's got to discover that, invent it, make a proprietary product. And so you get the license for that. Somebody's got to make it. And so that happens. And then you have distribution houses that handle it. And so, as an example, a company I was with right before Avini that I'd given my heart to for many years, if you look at them, somebody else invents the product, somebody else makes the product. It's distributed by a distribution house. All of these are moving parts and they don't have control. And so imagine in one building, you have the research laboratory, a really good one, all of the equipment. And so raw materials come in, they're carefully assayed, make sure they're really real, they're good, there's no contaminants, the active materials are there. You mix your own formulations, you test that, you bottle it and distribute it all under one roof. And so we can make product without all of those extra people to pay. And so we can have the very top quality, unique, and it's really there. What if you're with a company and you say, I want to make this, but let's say the manufacturer's thinking, ooh, this is a couple of $1,000s a kilo for this, and the recipe calls for 500 milligrams of this. Well, if we put 250 milligrams, nobody will know, and that doubles our value on our raw material. And there's stories like that. You can just look that up and see. As an example, one of the things, if you look up, let's see, GNC, Walgreens, and Walmart, independent lab study of their brand labels, you'll find that some of the stuff, an independent lab took that and they found the bottles just contained excipients, no active material. Lots of stories of something ordinary, just like vitamin E. The lab was done and just encapsulated vegetable oil. Scary stuff. And so what's in the product is there. It really is. Products you can trust, results you can depend on. That's one reason they work, is they're brilliantly formulated, but the stuff is really in there. Now, here's what drives this. There's a book called Change Your World by John Maxwell, and I love this idea. And this is what happens. This is part of being a human being, is if we believe in something, we share it with the people we love. It's just an automatic thing. And so he says it this way: I experienced something so life-changing that I change. I share something so life-changing that you change. We facilitate something so life-changing that others change. That's our Avini advantage, is we got unique products. Nobody's heard of them, and we are consistently surprised and delighted. When I took that product all those years ago, and I got a call from my doctor and says, hey, it's all gone. Oh my goodness, jubilation. And I started sharing that. At that time, 7 years ago, there was no business opportunity, but we shared it because, wow, this is important. And so this is the magic that we have. And so here we are. I think one of the things, I don't believe we can help ourselves. People want to belong to something. We want to be with other people. And imagine if we can come to somebody that's looking for purpose, and again, a lot of people really don't like what they're doing. What if you could actually show them a business? And so this is fundamentally what this is all about. It's creating a club that people want to belong to. And we're building a dream team. Dan Sullivan, he's a really amazing guy. He's a great coach and written lots of books. You can look him up. But this is one of I had this on an old business card. But think about this, and it's so true. The size of the future you actually experience will be largely determined by one factor: the people you choose to connect with. When you invite people who are truly committed to growth into every aspect of your life, your own potential for growth becomes truly unlimited. Now, it becomes truly unlimited when you think about this idea of sharing something so powerful as these life-changing products with Avini Health, but then our business plan is to actually not just we naturally want to share something with people, but what if we actually had a careful plan where you could do it strategically, consistently, and you were financially rewarded to do that, and everybody had that very same opportunity that you did, so they could in turn could do the same. That's a neat idea right here, unleashing the potential in everyone. And so what you want to do is you be an example of what's possible. So of all the things that you look at in business models, one of the fundamental things was said very well by J. Paul Getty. I'd rather have a 1% return on 100 men than a simple 100% return on myself. And so if you look at pretty much any business that's not a sole proprietor, where you actually have a business, especially a big business, where there could be hundreds of people or thousands or even hundreds of branches or outlets. It's all about leverage. I'd rather have a 1% return on 1,000 people than 1% on 100 or 100% return on my own. And here's the thing, if you have the proper leverage and a business that does that, this is actually true. One decided person will impact over 1 million lives. Think about that. What could be more fun as far as a life? When I think of success, I think of, well, the most successful person would be the one who's made the biggest difference on the largest number of people. If you would think about that idea, how can I make the biggest difference to the largest number of people? Here's products that can make a big difference in one of the most important things, your health. I've seen people given a second chance as far as their health, and then have that multiplying a factor where if you found 3 people but taught them to find 3 people, and so on, 3 times 3 is 9, 3 times 9 is 27, and so forth, that reproductive exponential power, yeah, that could add up to 1 million and more. And here's the thing, this idea, network marketing, has actually been around since the 40s. It really came to life in the 1950s when several companies started. And over this period of time, there's thousands of people who have literally become millionaires. Many people have done very well. And so it's not something new, and it works. Now, what's new is Avini. And of all the companies I've seen, I've never seen a more exciting product and a better comp plan. All of them can be powerful. There's a lot of good examples and it works, but what if you're in the right place at the right time with the best product, the best comp plan, amazing leadership, and nobody knows about it? Now, here's one of the things I think really awesome. There is one thing stronger than all the armies in the world. That is an idea whose time has come. Well, Avini is an idea whose time has come. And we've all heard this, and it's so true. Nothing is as powerful as an idea whose time has come. And so we're pumped and primed for it. Everybody's getting frustrated as far as the healthcare system. If the idea, in effect, often is you could actually think going to the doctor and they say, well, if you do what I say, you're never going to get better and you're going to take drugs the rest of your life, because so many drugs, they're not designed to cure. They're designed to treat symptoms. And talking about researching and doing independent lab stuff of products and stuff like that, one of the things, I don't remember the name of the product, but somebody developed a drug and it actually cured people. And if you look up Goldman Sachs, the question was that I guess shareholders, they said, is that really a good business model? Creating a drug that treats people, that cures people. And so it'd be much better if we just treat the symptoms and then they need to take it forever. And that almost seems like just this desire and drive for profit, because the purpose of a business is to make a profit. Well, the most profit would be keep people on it. Now, I like Avini, our purpose is to make a profit by doing good, adding value. And here's the thing I think is really important. Michael Gerber, he talks a lot about business and the idea of business systems. And that's what you want to do. You don't want to just work for someone else necessarily. But on the other hand, if you want to be in business for yourself, and pretty much if you're really ambitious and got gumption, probably sometime in your life you thought, one of these days I'd like to be in my own driver's seat of my own life, take charge and have a business of my own. And often that happens. But the whole idea Michael Gerber talks about is you need systems so you can multiply rather than just making a job for yourself. Michael Gerber says that if the business requires your presence, in a way you don't own a business, the business owns you. But here's the thing I think is really important is your business is nothing more than a distinct reflection of who you are. If your thinking is sloppy, your business will be sloppy. So if your business is to change, as it must, to be successful, you must change. Everything gets better when you get better. So this is a fun thought right here. Jim Rohn talks about that so often. For things to change, you got to change. And boy, Avini is a way where you can change everything, and it's got a plan to do that. And it's fun to have a vision of where this is going. All of us that went to the convention, we came home and our eyes were shining. I love this thought that leadership is the enthusiastic communication of your vision. And so people, to be a leader, that's just having vision. Now, here's the fun thing is not just being a leader, but teaching leaders to be leaders. And so isn't this a fun phrase? We are in the leader builder business. And so we want an army of people consistently doing a few simple things over an extended period of time. That's success in Avini, is just teaching people the fundamental things that produce results and having that as a daily activity. What is that activity? Well, one of the big things is recruiting people. One of the most happy positions that you can be in any corporation is to be a recruiter. If you really believe in what you're doing, going out and looking for quality people and bringing them on. But with Avini, what's really fun is you're giving them the ultimate business and you're setting them up in business rather than just come and work for me. They have every possibility that you do, and they could actually become a better and bigger person than you in this business. And you can smile all the way because you get paid on a part of that. And so I've often thought in my mind when I'm looking for people, I don't care if I'm the biggest distributor, but hopefully they'll be somewhere in my team. But here's the thing I think is really fun is if you're thinking, oh, boy, how can I get my group to do something? Well, you can get a new group. How can I make more money? My group isn't big enough. Whatever your challenge is, here's the fun thing. You can sponsor your way out of every problem. The universal solution for everything is sponsoring new people. And here's the thing. Think about this statement. Write this down. Nothing will ignite your business more than sponsoring new people. When's the best time to make a sale? Right after you made a sale. When's the best time to sponsor somebody? Right after you've sponsored somebody. And so momentum, get into personal momentum, which will create a group momentum. Leaders are momentum creators. Fundamental. 3 critical steps. It won't work without it. Recruit. Number 2, recruit. Number 3, recruit. And don't get them out of order. Recruit. That's the gateway skill. If you get really good at that, you'll always have job security. But Avini, this is where you want to recruit, because if you truly believe in the rightness and the goodness and the products and what we're doing, then it's really easy to communicate that to other people. You're excited, that is contagious. And so, boy, recruit. Nothing like that. How do you do that? Well, become the type of person you want to attract. Be total belief, confidence, and then what we do, we get better at it. But so much of it is just to talk, communicate. Here's the thing. Our business is managing conversations. More conversations is more business. Create more conversations. How do you do that? Well, if you want to go duck hunting, you go where the ducks are. And so just think, okay, I really believe in this. And so every time you're meeting people, well, on one hand, don't be thinking, well, how can this person benefit me? And that's the only way. That would be shallow. But if you really believe, you'd be thinking, okay, how can I add value to this other person? And so often everybody's interested in healthy and wealthy and all of that sort of thing. If you're not interested in health, I don't understand it. And so everybody ought to be interested. And in some ways, you could think, and it's true. Well, it isn't for everybody. They say in Avini, it ought to be. It really ought to be. And I really believe in that. But you just, hey, my job is let everybody know, but just be friends with everybody. And if they're not interested, I don't think, okay, they're not my friend anymore. Just love everybody. And who knows how it all comes out. But the more friends you have, the richer, more happy your life will be. And here's a way to get lots of friends because of the referral nature and how it just gets going. But here's some just fundamental things. Learn to build rapport. So much of it is just be interested in other people. And then find people where you have something in common. Relate to other people. And here's the thing, get really good at asking questions. And that leads to stories. And then really what makes this work so well is learn to tell stories. And a lot of times you might visit with somebody a little bit and they'll say, I want to see some paperwork. I want to see some studies or what's this or what's that. But if you actually tell a compelling story, that pretty much, that just all of a sudden everything else goes away. If you can learn to tell really good stories. So here's just some fundamental things here. You must have a story. Isn't that powerful? You must have a story to have so much emotion. And a lot of times you might be thinking, well, I'm just really cut and dried on decisions. But no matter who we are, our personality or whatever, ultimately, emotions have a lot to do with how we decide things. And so here's a way to have purpose, have something to share. It's just so fun to have something wonderful to share with everybody, and everybody you talk to, they don't know about this and they really need to know. So we got something really special. And so here's a fun thought right here. Everything you want is on the other end of a phone call. It's scary to pick up the phone, but don't say that's a bad information. Say, I love the telephone. The telephone is my friend. I love to call people on the phone. And so action conquers fear. I love the phone. Let go of fear and call. Ultimately, pretty much everybody that's making in this business, obviously, it's simply it comes down to belief and then action. You've got to talk to lots of people. That action determines success, no matter what it is. If you're not making any people, talking to people, I heard someone say, talk too much, say less to more people. But too many people have carried it to the extreme. Say less to more people, listen to people, listen for success, but don't. Some people they say nothing to everyone. You don't want to go that way. So action, talking to people. Avini is talking with people. Now, a lot of times if you call somebody, they won't answer. So you can text. Text works really good. This is actually taken from my phone, and this is something that you can do. Now, if you look at the flavor, this is not cold calling. This is talking to people you already know, which is what I recommend. Fundamentally, I love this idea is people do business with people they know, like, and trust. So ideally, if you're a good person, you got a lot of people that know you and like you and trust you. And so if you reach out to them, do this right here. So here I said, hi, Rick, can I ask you for a personal favor? Answer, he said, sure, what's it about? Then I just texted, I just watched a 6-minute video presented by a biochemist. Would you take a look at it and let me know what you think? Of course, thanks. And then send them the link and then follow up and do that. But ideally, call people, get a communication going rather than simply text. But both, the big thing is do something, then do it day after day. And here's the powerful thing, that which we persist in doing becomes easier, not that the nature of the task is less difficult, but our ability increases. And if we do it and do it, if we do it every day, it compounds. Pretty soon you'll get a ratio, and it typically is 2 or 3 out of 10. And so many people, they've never talked to 10 people yet. And they're thinking, well, it didn't work for me. Well, you called 2 people or 3 people. How can it work? And so fitting into that idea, anything you do once, you can do twice. If you can do it twice, you can make a habit of it. If you do this, you can make a lot of money. Do it and do it. A successful day becomes a successful week, a successful month, a year. Do this for 3 or 4 years. Imagine where your business will be. Look at Avini. We're only 3 years old. We're doing really well, but now the compounding is happening, and it's going to happen more and more. And so if you got in right now and you're brand new, 3 years from now, you could actually be bigger than Avini is, the entire Avini business right now at 3 years, because the momentum is compounding and you'll be part of that. Isn't that powerful? Gary Keller, who is a very successful real estate guru, started his own company. And that's a good way to do that. If you're a broker and then eventually have your own company of a whole bunch of brokers, it's really powerful. But think about this. Extraordinary success is sequential, not simultaneous. And here it is. It starts out linear, but it becomes geometric. You do the right thing, and then you do the next right thing. Over time, it adds up, and the geometric potential of success is unleashed. Success builds on success, and as this happens over and over, you move toward the highest success possible. What is possible? Wow, well, they got black diamond on that chart there. Somebody's going to do it. Why not you? If you can go silver, if you keep doing that, you can go gold. And it's just a fun thing. Now, here's the thought. Be the example. Be the kind of person that you would want to sponsor. So what kind of business would Avini be if everyone in it were just like me? Well, I can look at some people and, oh my goodness, we would be doing amazingly good if everyone was like that. And you can look at someone else that signed up, bought a kit, and they've disappeared. Oh, if everybody were that, we would be in trouble. So what kind of business would this be? I love these 10 two-letter words. If it is to be, it is up to me. To have, you must do. And now here's the big thing. So much of it is just decide. One of the most powerful forces in the universe is just a decided mind. Just decide. If you really decide once and for all you're going to do it, then every morning you don't have to decide again and think, oh, am I going to do this or not? Or you call somebody and it didn't work out. They said no, or, oh, I haven't looked at it yet. You think, oh, do I really want to do this? This is so hard. Well, if you have the potential to make 6 figures, I've never met anybody that makes 6 figures that does easy. Easy just doesn't pay well. Avini essentially is the easiest low pay you'll ever work. In fact, Avini is a pay plan where if you do nothing, you actually get nothing at all. Avini can actually be the highest pay work that you'll ever do. And it's entirely up to you and everything in between. You determine what you're going to earn with this. And so much of it is just decide and then make that decision once and for all so that you're not expending this mental energy. Oh, am I going to do it or not? Just say, I'm going to do it. That's it. At least think in your mind, okay, here it is, the beginning of September. I'm going to run as fast as I can up through the end of this year. That's a few months. At that point, I'll have a good idea of which way I'm going. At least do that. Give yourself a chance. So make a firm decision, and people will feel that when you're communicating, they can tell whether you've decided or not. And it can't be like, I'm going to call up my best friend, and if they're excited, then I'll do it. And if they don't, I won't. Oh, my goodness. Now, here's something I learned years ago when I first got into straight commission and all of that is a company owner. He says, call me every day. I did. I called that guy every day, several times a day for years. And I've always had a mentor, and I called him every day. Over all the years, this is one of the best shortcuts you can ever do. And as you start building your own business, then you become a leader. Right at first, when I got in and I didn't know a lot, well, I would call my leader every day, and then I would sponsor people or just prospect people. And then I would tell them to call them. I'd say, call him every day. He's really good. He's doing really well. And so I just put him to work. As time went on in the early 90s, we got into three-way phone calls. Wow, that was a marvelous technology. I was there when that first got going. And oh my goodness, that's what it's all about. Call me every day, make a list of names, and then do three-way calls. Three-way calls, I love this idea, ABC, where A is the expert, B is the new distributor, C is the new contact. And so when you are new, you call your friends, there's a bond of trust there. And then you have the expert, you trust them, you're working with them because you want to be like them, you trust them. And when you introduce them to your prospect, you can edify the expert and saying, hey, this guy's real successful. He's helping me. He's got the answers. And then really quick, a connection of trust goes there. It's very powerful putting an endorsement on them. And then you just do that over and over again. Working with an expert, you learn what they say and do. And that's the reason they're successful is because they say and do certain things day after day. Well, if you do that same thing, you'll soon be the same place they are because cause and effect. That's what it's all about. This is fundamentally what we do and just get really good at it, approaching people, prospecting, do it and do it. And success becomes a certainty as the magic in the numbers plays out. And again, I can't say it enough. The fortune is in the follow-up. Now, here's the thing I think is really important. This has been around a long time, and a lot of people take shortcuts. In my mind, I just think if you just get on a list and you're just thinking me, you're just going to burn through all your list, and people can feel that. Nobody likes to be used, strip mining your relationships effectively. Hey, I've got this deal I want to show you, and whatever. And so a lot of people have had those phone calls, had those presentations, and because of that, you make a call and you don't want to sound like them. You want to do something different. But one of the big things I believe is people maybe don't like network marketing because the only thing they know is they've learned from people that do it wrong. But when done right, it's the most beautiful thing because it's all based on relationships. This is really networking is relationships, relationship marketing. And if you got something wonderful and you're actually team building and doing everything, yeah, you'll still have no's, but you're not having to ruffle feathers or make anybody mad. It's a soft no. Then if you do it correctly, the no's are soft, and therefore you get used to that rather than making people mad or anything. And so what you want to do is do it right. Why does everybody love network marketing? Because in a way, we already do it. If we believe in something, we share it. And so if you discover a wonderful restaurant or read a good book or whatever, and you're sharing it with your friends, word of mouth marketing, network marketing, a friend talking to a friend, that's the most coveted type of marketing that people want to have is have something so good that there's a culture and people say, you got to go to this, and they love it. Now, here's the thing that I love about this in the history of network marketing, regardless of the company, the comp plan, or the product, or whatever, it comes down to finding three really good people. Invariably, if somebody's doing really well, almost all the time, you could say just very predictably that 90% of that person's income comes from three key people. And I love Avini because it was developed by a mathematician, a very sharp businessman, Neil Roth, and who had been in the industry and studied this. And we've got just a really beautiful comp plan where essentially, okay, if it's all about finding three really good people, our comp plan fits on one page. No gotchas. It's very uncomplicated. Just the shortest distance from here to there to find three really good people and teach them to do the same thing. Now, I've got this circle here of 500. Now, this is something mentally that I'd like everyone to just kind of think, okay, use my own product, be my own best customer, get a couple of other customers. So I'm a customer, got a couple of other customers. If I do that, if I'm doing at least 500, there's something magic about 500. If you look at the comp plan, we won't go into a lot of detail, but study it and learn it, print it out and look at it so you don't have to look it up. It's just on your desk. And if you look, the first step to be a silver apprentice is have a volume of 500. And also it fits into having a customer and a distributor. So Avini created a plan where they want to pay people as soon as possible. So if you do just basically at least 500 volume and it's spread into the position where you've got a personal customer, at least one personally sponsored distributor, you have at least two qualified legs. So I think 1 + 1 + 2, one distributor, one customer, and two legs, you'll get a check. Not a huge one, but you're in the game. And now you've got a proof in concept. All you have to do is teach other people to do that. And if you do 500, other people do 500, it multiplies out really beautifully and you move up the ranks. But this is the core of it. Find three really good people and teach other people to really do get that. And then use the product. If I came to you and presented this, would be probably the most silly thing to think of. I'm showing you this, and you say, well, what have you noticed with the product? And I say, well, actually, I don't use the product. I just want you, I want you to buy it. That doesn't even make sense. The reason this is driven so powerful is because people have product experiences and they want to share it with their friends. And so that's what drives it. Success in Avini Health, it's simple to do, simple to duplicate. Find three really good people, teach them to do that. Now, here's the thing that's real critical. To find three really good people, you might need to recruit 10 people to find the three good ones. Now, here's the thing. I think most of us have any experience in the world. The greatest source of strength is pray. Work like it all depended on you, pray like it all depended on God, and you'll be successful. To me, getting in this business was an answer to prayer. I had a health problem and I was praying for an answer, and I just thought other people are doing the same thing. And so one of the most satisfying things is to follow promptings and realize you're an answer to someone else's prayer. People are praying for business. I did that too. Here's the key. Winners never quit, quitters never win. Rule number one, get in. Rule number two, don't quit. And in between, do it and do it every day. Do it. So do it and don't quit, and you'll be successful. That's what it is. Here's a thought right here. The most common trait I have found in all successful people is that they have conquered the temptation to give up. Persistence and determination alone are omnipotent. Here's a thought. Okay, one of my favorite stories of somebody that changed the world was A.L. Williams. And I saw that at the very beginning, hearing about people in the 1980s about some new insurance thing. I remember just thinking, I wish I could get excited about insurance, but taking insurance tests and passing and getting a license and talking about that stuff, that was just so boring. I could not get excited, but I wanted to because I saw people making big bucks. And what made sense, it made total sense. Essentially, the story is before A.L. Williams came along, everything was whole life. It was pretty much, he thought, a ripoff. That if you're putting that much money in insurance, it's really not an investment. You should look at investing and you should look at insurance for protection and keep the things separate. And he invented an idea where buy term, so you're buying the insurance and invest the difference. And he revolutionized. There was other companies that had been around 100 years, and in the course of just a few years, he was outselling them, changed everything. And in the book Coach, because A.L. Williams was a football coach, and then he became a business coach. Essentially the same idea. He was a winning coach and he became a winning business coach with a passion. He was on a mission. And here's the thought right here. In the book, it says, where now will the American people find a champion willing and able to change our present course? Where would we find a man with the temerity to face these latter-day untouchables, to stand in the path of this juggernaut and cry halt? Because he had a lot of resistance because those other companies wanted to keep it like it was. And then it goes on, it says, when he is found and takes the job and does it, he will never be forgotten, for he will have brought the American people more, well, I put this in myself, more health and financial independence and self-respect than 100 years of current, and I put in healthcare. So here we are. His enemy was the insurance industry. We have a new enemy to fight, the industrial medical complex. I believe we've got some answers. I honestly believe that if everyone were using Avini, we would not have a health crisis right now. It's that big of a deal. Here's a famous quote. That's one small step for man and a giant leap. And I changed that, a giant leap for healthcare. So a small step right now, but it's going to be a giant leap. We are going to revolutionize the whole idea of health. Now, here's something, Jim Rohn, one of the greatest business philosophers. He's brilliant. And he said something that just really made me think, and I want to share this with you. He says, "What do you think messes most with the mind?" I think it is simply doing less than you can. It causes all kinds of psychological damage by simply being less than you can be, doing less than you could do, trying less than you could try, doing it with less enthusiasm than you could. That somehow damages the mind. It damages our self-image. The greatest value you can get from extending yourself is how you feel about yourself. The greatest value is what you become. And I love Avini because it really is a highly advanced personal development course. As we build this business, you're gaining the skills that are the most valuable as far as success and happiness. And that's our ability to influence other people and using that in a powerfully good way. Here's a thing where we have mentorship, hanging around some of the best people, ongoing and no charge. Coaches, they can charge a whole bunch. We got some of the best people, and you just get plugged in. But I recommend what Jim Rohn recommends. Don't do less than you can. Look at this and think, okay, I've always held back. I've never been really motivated because I'm not inspired with what I'm doing. That famous thought is, I only work hard enough to not get fired, and the company pays you only enough so that you won't quit. That's not a balance to be in. Look at this as finally something came along that's worthy of my all. Think in your mind, I wonder how good I am. How fast could I run if I ran as fast as I could? What would that be like? And if you do it, you might surprise yourself. And so think about that. If holding back damages your mind and your soul, and I think some work does, it dries you up. This doing Avini is soul fulfilling. There's something. John Maxwell, I love him as a leader. I listen to him all the time. John Maxwell Leadership Podcast. Look that up. But this is his personal life mission statement. He believes that we have a plan and a purpose. So this is what he's got written out. God has a plan for my life. I can know God's plan for my life. God wants me to be successful. I must continually be obedient and change to be successful. Yeah, change. We need to keep changing. When I grow, I change. I add value to myself, others, and God. And here's this thought. I really like this. Really great men have this curious feeling that the greatness is not in them, but through them. And so, Vini, it's an invitation for greatness. It's an invitation to really make a difference. And here's something here. Henry Ford said this: one of the greatest discoveries a person makes, one of their great surprises, is to find that they can do what they were afraid they couldn't do. And here's the thing also. Normally in business, you reach out, it costs a lot of money. Typically, you can put a lot on the line and get hurt really bad. But in Avini, day after day, very little financial risk. You buy a kit, but you actually get tremendous value, and you can write that off. So day after day, your risk exposure is just to your ego. Somebody might say no, but day after day, it's like being in the batting cage, and it isn't 1, 2, 3 strikes, you're out, and the game is over. No, just ball after ball, and eventually you're going to hit some out. Here's a thought. Remember that guy who gave up? Neither does anyone else. So decide, I'm in, I'm going to do this. And then you do it. The product, if you've been around, yes, it really does work. There's a market for it. We're growing. Why not you? And play big and get plugged in. And sure love you. Let's go do this.